I want to talk about what was Ted Bundy's biggest mistake in the 1979 Florida trial. Ted Bundy's trial in Florida, the Chi Omega sorority house trial, was the first trial to be nationally televised nationwide. One of the mistakes that he made was firing or was firing his attorney Bob Haggard. Bob Haggard, who was part of the defense team, strongly believed that he could have achieved a hung in a jury. A hung in a jury is a mistrial. And that he Bob Haggard believed that he built a rapport with the jury, that his closing argument that he prepared for months, no, for weeks or days, could have swayed at least one juror that Ted Bundy was not guilty of the Chi Omega sorority attack. This would have been Bob Haggard's greatest accomplishment as an attorney. In spite of all the overwhelming evidence against Bundy, the bite mark, the hair, the pantyhose mask, where there was hair that matches Bundy, and Nita Neary eyewitness testimony, the fact that he could have potentially achieved a hung in the jury would have been amazing. It could have potentially put pressure in the prosecutor to negotiate a peace deal. Bundy initially rejected the peace deal because he could not bring himself in the court to say that he was guilty of these charges. Instead, but after firing Haggard 2 days before the closing argument, he had Margaret Good deliver the closing argument, which was kind of weak. She said something in the line like, "It will be a sad day that our justice system convict a man because they thought he had a crooked teeth, but he was not guilty." This was a weak closing argument. So this was a big mistake on Bundy's part, not having Bob Haggard deliver the closing argument and then acting erratic and strange during this entire Chi Omega trial. And then when he was asking the police officer what he saw when he entered the Chi Omega house, and asked him to describe what crucial detail he saw when he entered that house, was a bad strategy. So Margaret Good was not an experienced criminal. At the time, she was not experienced as being a criminal attorney. Bob Haggard was the more experienced one, and he's the one who should have given that closing argument. But even if Bob Haggard had successfully convinced the juror for her mistrial, for it would not have changed the fact that Bundy was going to get convicted for the Kimberly Leach trial. Or they could have retried the case with all the evidence and potentially get a conviction. But if they retried the case and they got a mistrial again, then they could have negotiated a peace deal that Bundy initially refused, but he would have accepted after a potential 2 hung in the jury. 2 mistrial, which is what a hung in the jury is. That's all I gotta say.